Let's take a different perspective on NAFTA, if we may, tonight. This one, the Canadian perspective, at least one Canadian perspective. And one major Canadian political party is adamantly opposed to the trade agreement and to the threat of a North American union. Jack Layton is the leader of Canada's new Democratic Party, and he joins us tonight from Ottawa. Jack, great to have you with us.
Good to be with you, Lou.
The Canadian perspective on NAFTA, a lot of grumbling here. A lot of discussion about whether it should be amended in our presidential contest as well. Your thoughts?
Well, we think that NAFTA is not working well for working families and the middle class. I'll just give you a couple of examples.
Sure.
Here in Canada, we've lost a third of 1 million jobs just in the last 3 years in the manufacturing sector. And, you know, these are the kind of jobs that allow people to pay a mortgage, to raise their kids, to make contributions to the local hockey team. You know, we love hockey here in Canada, and to really the backbone of the community. And they're now finding that the jobs that are available when they get laid off out of these plants, because their jobs have now been sent off to some far-off land where wages are 1/100th of what they are here. The kind of jobs they can find in Canada are minimum wage. They can't pay their mortgages. They're really struggling, and I know many American workers are finding exactly the same thing. And I think it's time we made a little bit of common cause and looked at these trade deals to make sure they're working for the people who make the economy work.
Yeah, I think most Americans would not pay attention a great deal to the fact that Canada is a parallel, if you will, universe in terms of these agreements. When you talked about a third of 1 million manufacturing jobs, but that goes beyond just NAFTA. That goes to Canada's overall trade policies, does it not?
Well, yes, it does. And just to give you some examples, we ship raw logs from our forests all the way over to China, where they're turned into products, and they come back and we buy them. In fact, we even find sometimes that the products don't meet our standards here. I heard you talking about toxic toothpaste in the U.S. Well, we've been facing toxic toys here in Canada.
Right.
So
That's
it's there go the jobs. The trees go and they take the jobs with them. And I know the west coast of the U.S. is experiencing many of the same things. So we need some fair and sustainable trade. That's what we've got to put together here.
What a wonderful expression, fair and sustainable trade. In other words, Jack, and let me say, I think many people are surprised as they listen to you talking about the problems with NAFTA from your perspective. Those are precisely, as a matter of fact, that's precisely what we're doing as well. We're sending out lumber to timber and bringing back lumber. We're exporting soybeans and scrap and taking in computers from China. We're the principal source of our computers, our consumer electronics, and we look like a third world country, for crying out loud.
Well, it's these multinational corporations under this so-called phrase globalization that feel they can organize the way that the things that we consume and produce in their own interest. And they're certainly doing very well by it, but it leaves a lot of people behind, and that's why we think a renegotiation of trade should take place. And today in Washington, our trade critic, Peter Julian, was there from our party, working with Congress members and legislators from Mexico to set up a working group to do exactly that. That's a bit of good news today.
Real quickly, we're out of time. Jack Layton, Mr. Brody, the Prime Minister's Chief of Staff, some talk about him being the source of that leak on the Obamagate, as it is called here. Your reaction?
Well, I asked the Prime Minister today in the House of Commons to apologize to the American people for this kind of interference in the democratic process in the U.S. It's not right. He hasn't yet apologized, and he hasn't yet fired the source of the leak. So we'll keep working on that on our end.
Well, it's nice and it's absolutely reassuring, Jack Layton, to find that politics are not just a mess here, but occasionally even up north. We thank you for taking time to be with us. Hope you'll come back soon as we discuss these important issues for working men and women and their families in both Canada and the United States, and Mexico, for that matter.
For sure, Lou. Take care.
Thank you. You too.